In today's video, I'm going to show you how to create this section in Divi 5. Now, as you know, Divi has moved from Divi 4 to Divi 5, and it's a complete brand new page builder. Now, from now onwards, all my tutorials are going to have steps and a process that you can apply to websites in the actual industry. So for example, when you take a look at this, you're probably thinking, well, it's a very easy design, it's simple, but there's a lot going on here. First of all, this design is fluid and responsive. Now, let me show you what I mean. Now, take a look here as I'm dragging this slider here to the left. All the text is getting smaller and smaller, and notice what happens to the cards as well. As they're getting smaller, they're going to switch. Now, this switch is going to happen automatically like that because it depends with the screen size and what looks perfect at that stage. And if we continue on, you're going to notice that now they are going to be in a column like that. So this is ideal for a mobile phone. Now, to achieve this, it is not as straightforward as you may think. The process that I'll be using is very advanced and also up to standards for 2026. And I've also included this interaction mode where if a visitor to your website wants to click, if they mouse over it, there's a indication to show that there is something that is clickable. So I'm going to show you step by step how to create this from scratch. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So over here, this is the design that we're working on. I'm just going to duplicate this and then delete all the content that we have here on the top. So to start from scratch, we're going to start off with a single column. Now in this column, we're going to need a heading. So let's add our heading like that. And then below this, we're going to have paragraph text. So I'm going to go in and search for my text module. Now this workflow is the best because it just saves you a lot of time as you're designing. All right, so the next part here is to center everything. So I'm going to go into the first one here, click on design, and then we're going to go to our heading text and center it. All right, so at this stage, I know I want this to be maybe a heading 3 or heading 4. So let's start off with heading 3. Now you're going to notice that I have presets already set. Now this is what makes the design of this section here very, very easy, very, very professional, and very, very consistent because this is a design system. So all the text sizes are already set for me. And by the way, I'll leave a link to Crafter in the video description below. This is the design system. All right, so I'm going to go with heading 3 like that. So with heading 3 selected, I'm going to come over here and also center this text by coming over here, scroll down, center that. Now this text also needs a preset. So I'm going to come over here and this is our body text. Okay, so we're going to select that. So already my body text has already been set. Now I may come back over here again and say, okay, you know what? Maybe heading 3 is not working well for me. So I want to change this to perhaps maybe heading 2. So as you can see, it's slightly bigger. All you have to do now is to remove heading 3. All right, so far so good. The next step now is to add another section, another row. So I'm going to click on this plus button and we're going to go with equal columns. All right, so at this stage now, we are now building the card that is going to house all the information that we need. So we're going to start off with a group. I'm going to select that. Okay, great. So now that I have this group, what are we going to have in this group? Well, if you look at our design here, we're going to have an image first. So I'm going to go in and add it. Now, after the image, we're also going to have a bit of text. So I'm going to search for my text module here, add it. Okay, moving on, we're going to need a title. So I'm going to click here on this plus button and the title is going to be a heading. So I'm going to select that. Now, after the heading, we're going to need some excerpts. So I'm going to click here on this plus button and this time it's going to be text. Select that. Okay, so we have 3 bunches of text here. This here, which is the date, the title, and the excerpt. All right. So far so good. I know it doesn't look very exciting at the moment. All right. So the next step now is to come over here into our rows. Okay. Now at this stage, it's very important that we also use our presets. So we're going to come over here to the top, click over here and select content row because we want this to be a content row. All right. So now that that is set, we are now going to come over here now on our group settings. Okay. So I'm going to select group settings and then activate our loop. So I'm going to come over here to loop and then activate it. So you're going to notice now that we have 3 items here. Okay, you see that? Those are 3 blog posts. And by the way, I've already gone ahead and created our blog post. All right, so with this now, I'm going to come back over here to my row settings. Now, this is where Krafter really shines, because instead of going in and setting all our grids or our flexbox, I don't need to do any of that. All I have to do is to select row settings, and then over here, I'm going to go into elements. Now, of course, everything is housed in the column. So I'm going to select column, and then over here on the top, I'm going to say auto grid. Bang. And now everything is in our grid. And if this screen changes, for example, to that, you can see it has adopted. If we go to this, it has adopted. Okay. This is done automatically and it works flawlessly. All right. So now that we have this, well, what do we need to do next? Well, this is where the design comes in. So I'm going to go in here, okay, and go to the design tab. So the first thing we need to do is to add, it's a bit of spacing around this design. So I'm going to click over here and then say padding small, like that. Now I know we can't see anything yet because everything is white. So the next step is to come over here to content, and then we're going to come over here to background. Okay. So on our background here, we have all our colors created for us in Krafter. So all I have to do is to select my color, and I'm going to go with this light gray. Now, you can choose any colors you want here. So let's say you have a color palette that has quite a lot of colors. Well, you can just come over here and choose the color. So for example, you could go with a very light blue like that, and that could be perhaps the color that you want to use. But in my case, I'm just going to stick to my grayscale, which is this. All right. So now that I have this, the next step now is to add the rounded corners. So I'm going to come over here to design, border, and then I'm going to say radius. Let's go with medium. Okay. So, okay, I think that works fine. The next thing I'm going to do now is to start adding all my content into my design. So all you need to do is to focus on the one. So over here with our group, this is where we applied our loop, remember? So we are going to now go into the image, okay? And then we're going to come over here to content. So this image now needs to be connected to our loop. So I'm going to click on dynamic content and say loop featured image. Bang. Now our images are pulled from all our blog posts that we've already created. Okay, so the next step now is to perhaps maybe stylize this a little bit. So in fact, let me just click on apply. We're going to come over here, and on our image, I'm going to go to border. Okay, so for our border here, I'm just going to say radius small. Okay, so now we've just cleaned up all the corners, and that's looking nice already. Next, we're going to come over here to this text here. So with this text, what I need to do is to connect it as well. So I'm going to come over here, and this time, in fact, I need to go to content. I was on the design tab. So you need to be on the right tab. So on our text here, we're going to hover over and go to insert dynamic content. So over here is going to be the loop date. So I'm going to choose the loop publish date, which is this one here. Bang. Okay. So you can see my date has been added. I'm going to say apply. By the way, you can also change the date format if you want to, change it over here, but I want to leave it as it is. Click on apply. All right. So in the design tab now, I'm just going to come over here, and then on the presets, I'm going to change this to label. Okay, so you can see there's a slight change, which is fantastic. Next, we have our title now. Again, I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to make sure that I'm on the content. And for our title, we're just going to come over here, hover over our heading, and then we're going to choose, this is our post title. There we go. So now we have our post title. I'm going to say apply. So now that we have our post title selected, I can now come over here to design and set the actual size or the heading size. So I want to go with heading 4, and I think heading 4 is perfect for this. Next, we have our except. So I'm going to come over here again, select this. Now notice that I'm using the middle one. It doesn't really matter which one I choose. I can even choose this one. So back over here on the content, I'm going to hover over here and click in here and then choose my loop excepts, which is right here. Okay, now this is again pulling from my blog post, which is fantastic. I'm going to now choose the number of words and I'm going to say maybe 14. Okay, maybe keep it clean. So I think 14 works fine. So read more text. If you want to add read more text, you can just say read more like that. In fact, let's just capitalize this. Okay, so now we have our read more, but of course it's up to you if you want to have it, or not. And then here, again, the number of words is pretty much up to you, what you want to have. You could even go with 12, for example, or even 10. It just depends how clean you want it to be. All right, so let's go ahead and click on apply. So now that we have all this, there's also a few things that we need to do. I want to select the whole group, okay? And then I want to come over here to link because I want this group link to link to the actual blog post. So I'm going to say loop link. Select that. Hit apply, and so far so good. Now at this stage, you're probably thinking, well, the design is almost done, or it's good to go. No, because the spacing here is not correct, and it is not up to standard. So what we need to do now is to go into our group settings. So the first thing you need to do if you want to apply intentional spacing, which is based on a spacing scale, you want to now come over here to design. Okay, so on the layout, you want to click here and set this to gap 0. Okay, we've removed all the gaps from this card. Okay, so now we're going to go in and intentionally add our spacing. So for the date here, I want to select it by coming over here, and then for the spacing, I'm going to click on our preset. So I'm going to say a margin top, but here the margin top needs to be really small. So I'm going to scroll all the way down, extra small. Okay, so I just want it ever so slight. And then over here now on the heading, I'm going to select that, go to spacing, and then for the spacing, I'm going to say margin top, medium. Now it's up to you how you're going to add this, okay, depending on the design. But you can see here medium is a bit too much, so I'm going to go in and say margin top small. Okay, that's much better. And also this text here, it doesn't look great like that. So I'm just going to go in here and change this to small. Okay, so I think that's looking much better. Next, I'm going to come over here now to the paragraph, select that, go to spacing, and I want this set to small as well. Okay, so now everything is all spaced out correctly and I'm pretty much happy with what I've done so far. The next thing I want to do now is to head over to my row settings. Okay, and then let's go into our layout. I'm going to go over here, make sure column is selected, and then I'm going to go to design. And in here now, I am going to choose the gap between my items here. So I'm going to go with medium. Okay, so I think that looks much better. And we have auto grid set, which is good. And also this is our content row, as you can see here on the top. The next thing I need to do now is to add a hover effect onto this. So I'm going to select my card. Okay. And then over here on the top, I'm going to choose hover. Next, I'm going to come over here to content. And this is where we need to add our background. So I'm going to come over here, delete this, and I'm just going to add a slight shade of the background. And I'm going to go with this. Now it's up to you if you want to use perhaps maybe, something that's a bit different from the color palettes. I mean, you can go ahead and add perhaps maybe even this 200 like that. That also works. And then you want to go back to desktop. Okay, so far so good. The next thing we need to do now is, in fact, before I show you the next step, I want to talk about the Divi 5 Mastery course. Now, this course is fantastic. If you're brand new to Divi 5 and you'd like to learn how Divi 5 works, this course will get you up and running. As you know, Elegant Themes does not have the documentation for Divi 5. So if you're someone that has just purchased Divi and you want to get up and running super fast, this course is for you. As you can see, there's 1,071 students already signed up. And so far, it's got positive reviews. Now, the thing is, the price. You probably think that this is maybe $97 or maybe $47. Well, absolutely not. This course is only $27. And once you purchase this, when I add new lessons, you will not be required to pay any extra. So go ahead. I'll leave the link to that in the video description below. All right. So back to our design here. The next thing we need to do now is to make sure everything here is set up correctly. So let's use our lorem text. So I'm going to come over here, go to lorem 2. So I'm going to start with the heading and paste it. Next, I'm going to go to the paragraph text, and I'm also going to paste this in here like that. So at this stage, you can see that this row does not look right. That's because I haven't set the size yet. So I'm going to come over here to the row and say this is a wide text row like that. Or we can even go as far as saying this is a text row, okay? Because this is only housing the text, which is brilliant. All right. So with that, I just need to clean this up one more time. So what's left now is to make sure that our sizing is correct. So I'm going to double check here and see, okay, the spacing between my text here needs to be adjusted. Now, it is very important to do this because our spacing is fluid. So when our page gets smaller, the spacing also gets smaller according to the screen size. So we have to go in and set all this. So with my row selected, I'm going to come over here to our elements, choose our column, and then over here in the design, under the layout, I'm going to say gap 0, okay? And then over here now on the spacing, I can then now say margin top. Oops. I need to select this first, and then say margin top over here on the spacing. And let's see if we can go with margin top medium. Okay, that's a bit too much. So let's go with margin top small. Okay, that's much better. Now there's also these two rows that are very close together, right? So we need to go to the bottom one. And then again, we're going to go to our spacing here and say margin top medium. Well, you can see the spacing there is not right. So we can even go and try margin top extra large, and that could work perfectly. Okay, so to finalize this design, we can now come over here to our section and make sure that it's set to medium, because by default it's set to that, but it needs to be set to medium. Right, so now everything looks great, and let's just make sure that everything is different here with this with the lower section. So I'm going to go into the background, and then let's just add a very light color here so we can distinguish the two. All right, so let's save this and hit a preview. All right, so this is now our brand new design. If I hover over it, you can see now we have this hover. Nice, clean. So with the spacing here, you can always go back in, adjust whatever you need to adjust to make it look the way you want. And this is responsive. Now we can just check one more time. It's always very important to go in and double check. So you can see there, auto grid is working. Our text there on the top is getting smaller, and this looks great on all devices, as you can see. Fantastic. So what we've covered here is we've gone in, we've intentionally added our spacing scale. We've also used auto grid. We've also used our padding on our sections, and we've also used the hover color. So this design here is approved. Let me use the word approved to go into the world out there and qualify as a design that has been designed by someone who knows what they're doing. And to achieve this, we had to use SiteKrafter. So no, sorry, Krafter. I keep saying SiteKrafter. We use Krafter design system for Divi 5. The link to that is in the video description below. It's only $77. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Take care.